No one blamed Catherine Kuhlman. Most blamed themselves. Interesting how he documents all of that, that if you weren't healed, it's your own fault. And so you'll note that people here who were paraded on stage, one particular woman, what's noted about her is that she had been told by Catherine Kuhlman to take her back brace off, and she ended up getting way worse. Here's her account. At the service, as soon as she said someone with cancer is being cured, I knew she meant me, the woman said. And this is Dr. Nolan interviewing her weeks later. I could just feel this burning sensation all over my body. I was convinced that the Holy Spirit was at work. I went right up on the stage, and when she asked me about the brace, I just took it right off, though I hadn't had it off for over 4 months. I had so much back pain. While I was up on the stage, bending over, touching my toes and running up and down as she asked me to, I felt just wonderful. I didn't have a pain anywhere. Even when we were riding back home, Mrs. Sullivan lives 130 miles from Minneapolis, I refused to wear the brace. I was sure I was cured. This is called psychosomatic stuff right here. That night, as I said a prayer of thanksgiving to the Lord and Catherine Kuhlman, and then went to bed happier than I had been in a long time. But the story then continues. At 4 o'clock the next morning, I woke up with a horrible pain in my back. It was so bad that I broke out in a cold sweat. I didn't dare move. I called to Ralph, and he got up and brought me some pain pills. Ralph is her husband. They helped, but not enough, so I could sleep. In the morning, we called the doctor. He took me to the hospital and got some x-rays that showed one of my vertebrae had partially collapsed. He said it was probably from the bending and the running that I had done. I stayed in the hospital in traction for a week, and when I went home, I was back in my brace. Mrs. Sullivan then died of cancer 4 months after she had been cured at Catherine Kuhlman's miracle service. Dr. Nolan writes, the more I learned of the results of Catherine Kuhlman's miracle service, the more doubtful I became that any good she was doing could possibly outweigh the misery that she was causing. This is from an objective medical third party. And in fact, he wrote an article in McCall's magazine in 1974. And listen to what he said. This is kind of summarizing his findings that he records in this book. Here's what he says. During the service, as those who had claimed a cure came down off the stage, 2 legal secretaries I had enlisted to help me wrote down the names, addresses, and phone numbers and diagnoses of everyone who was willing to cooperate in and follow up in a study. We got 82 names. A few weeks after the service, letters were sent to the names on the list, inviting them to come to Minneapolis on Sunday, July 14th, and tell us about their experiences. 23 people showed up, and I made arrangements to interview them individually over the next few months. In talking to these people, I tried to be as honest, understanding, and as objective as possible. But I couldn't dispense with my medical knowledge and my common sense. I listened carefully to everything they told me and followed up every lead that might have led to a confirmation of a miracle. I was led to an inescapable conclusion, Dr. Nolan writes. Of the patients who had returned to Minneapolis to reaffirm the cures claimed at the miracle service, not one had, in fact, been miraculously cured of anything. So we got a problem here. Catherine Kuhlman wasn't healing anybody. And I pointed this out, that here she has this woman claiming that she's cured of cancer on the stage in the middle of a euphoric event. And boy, she wants to claim her healing here. But this woman hasn't been checked with, hasn't had a doctor check. And when Dr. Nolan he hired 2 legal secretaries to get the names of all the people who were healed at the Minneapolis healing service. Not a single one of them were actually healed of anything, cured of anything at all. Not one of them. And here she has this woman claiming she's been cured of cancer who clearly hasn't. And she's up on stage parading around waving her arms as if that's the way in which you determine whether or not somebody's been cured of cancer. Again, watch.
Walk over there. Just
of course, she could walk. That doesn't prove that she has been cured of cancer.
keep on walking. Is there no pain in your body? Is there no pain there? She's scared to death. Put your arms up again. Put them up again.
Okay. Dr. Nolan couldn't find any evidence of anyone being healed. Not one person. And he was the objective third party. Now, let's take a look again. You'll note that this video that Winger put out, this is a screen capture from it. Here's Benny Hinn, and there's David Digger Hernandez right there. We talked about Vlad Savchuk on a previous installment. Both of them are disciples of Benny Hinn. But what Winger did is he demonstrated that this stuff literally is criminal, what these men are doing. What Benny Hinn is doing is criminal. If there was justice, he would actually go to prison for what he's doing in legitimately abusing and torturing people who are obviously sick and desiring to be healed from God but aren't. But watch this.
At least in this kind of detail. After I do this, I think others will go through and look at his healings, and you'll boost the audio and you'll find what you find, and that's good. We should expose this man for the fraud that he is. The world should hear Christians saying this man does not stand for Christ, he doesn't represent us, and we call that out. We will not stand for this kind of chicanery.